Welcome to our webinar today, which is all about innovating and empowering your business and the benefits of all of the latest technology, which we're referring to as app stacks. All will become clear as we get through the presentation this morning, and a look at the latest tech for improving business processes. Delighted to be joined by Raz Miah, Business Systems Manager at Grunberg's. Welcome, Raz. Nice to see you. And Raz is going to take us through this presentation. There will be time for questions at the end if you do have any, and I suggest easiest way to do that is to use the Q&A button on your toolbar on Zoom. Put any questions forward to Raz that you might have as we go through, and we'll try and answer as many of those at the end as we can. So I'll hand over to Raz, and I will see you back at the end for questions. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Hi, everyone. My name is Raz Miah. I'm the Systems Manager at Grunberg & Co. I've been here now for 3 years. I'm in charge of the systems and processes. I advise external and internal clients. So I am a chartered accountant. I've spent the last 16 years in various sectors, and I now specialize with systems design, implementations, migrations, training, and support. So let's dive straight into the slides. So what's driving the accounting industry and business technology? Essentially, let's go back in history. I joined the profession back in 2004. A lot has changed since then due to large-scale corporate scandals, essentially, which brought about new legislation, controls, processes, and standards. More recently, HMRC has brought about a new strategy called Making Tax Digital, which is transforming our tax system. Essentially, they're asking us to keep digital records and to utilize electronic submission processes. So what do I mean by that? They want us to keep digital accounting software to keep all of our records in and then submit via those systems straight to their databases. So what's that got to do with apps? Apps are essentially software applications which were developed to carry out specific functions. So we can now connect accounting systems to these applications to improve and reduce processes. Why? Because we want to remove manual processing. Essentially, think of young Raz starting off in his career back in 2004. I was sitting there entering data from reams and reams of bank statements straight into an accounting software. And then I'd be processing in a similar sort of fashion lots of receipts and invoices from suppliers and our colleagues with their personal expenses, just essentially lifting data from the invoices and typing it in manually and coding it, and then eventually reviewing it and figuring out whether things are going to plan or not. So when we say remove manual processing, we're trying to digitize all of that processing. So we want to transfer data from one system to another with digital links to maintain integrity in the data, so increasing accuracy and consistency of that stored data. Large-scale businesses have been using ERP systems to do this for many years now, which can deal with the global changes in tech and compliance to improve their management of those businesses. Now, drawing on my corporate days, we now have the experience and apply those lessons that we've learned together with similar technologies and apply them to small and medium entities. Now, why? Essentially, new entrants to your market, new players, I can guarantee pretty much all of them will be having some sort of tech in the middle of all of those processes. So we just want you to keep up to date. These systems are not just applicable to small entities. I know of large £100 million businesses using similar technologies to replace their bulky, expensive ERP systems. So we've got a list of key points here. So time is saved with greater efficiencies. You can utilize your resources for value added tasks. What does that mean? So if we remove some of the admin, those resources or those colleagues of yours can spend more time on sales and marketing, or improving cash flow, or even improving work-life balance. Reducing errors in the data, so we can adhere to the tax and statutory compliance and deadlines as well. Clients often ask, what about security? So these days modern systems have what they call multi-factor authentication. Essentially, you have a password as well as some sort of app on your smartphone to allow you access. So essentially it's like a bank level security. And years ago, tech was also always seen as an overhead. Now it's a must and is essential for most businesses to function. And also assists with cost reductions. As I said before, if, for example, in a typical business you're spending 30-40% of your time on the admin, if you can reduce that admin, then you can do more value-added tasks. So how can technology reduce costs through profits? So we have a simple formula. Here we're looking at accurate, reliable and timely data, essentially. With that in mind, if we can have all of that in place, we can then create management information or reports to allow our decision makers to make more crucial decisions faster. As a minimum, you need to start off with a cloud accounting system like Xero. Then you would have your bank feed set up. So if you think of young Raz back in 2004, copying bank statements into a accounting software with bank feeds, now all of that is automated. Then because Xero allows systems to interact or communicate with it via API, which is an application programming interface, which most modern systems allow these days. Think of a train track or the tube network. So the network is all closed, but it has stations. Each station has different passengers. The train carriage goes around the network, collating all of the data, essentially, or passengers in our example, and then they all disembark at central station, in our case Xero, or a reporting suite. So why? Because it's management information. We need that information faster, and we need it to be accurate, we need it to be reliable, and we need it to be timely, so that we are dealing with up-to-date information so that we can make crucial decisions. Some apps are industry specific, whilst others can be applied to most or all industries. With over 1,000 apps, you're going to need some guidance. A lot of the apps, well, I can think of a handful of apps that all copy each other, so they all have their own quirks. Essentially, you need an experienced hand to guide you through it all. Today we're going to talk about online retail, hospitality, manufacturing, and the professional services industries. So, innovation for online retailers. Online retailers, we're talking about the likes of the Amazon and the eBay and Shopify retailers. There's many more like WooCommerce and Squarespace, and I'm sure you can fill in the gaps, and you probably know more than I do in terms of online retailers. These days, they're all cropping up, like Instagram, they're all getting on the bandwagon, TikTok and Facebook. So what are the problems that online retailers have? They usually have a major problem with reconciling their sales to payouts. What does that mean? So let's say, for example, last month the sales were for a typical business for 10,000 to £20,000, but the following week the money's coming into the bank account is more like 18,000. So where's that 2,000 gone? So clients can spend an awful lot of time trying to reconcile all of their transactions to figure out where that missing money has gone. And a lot of systems can automate that these days by connecting that data to your accounting software. Other problems, they have taxes now. They have a lot of tax problems in the EU due to Brexit and other legislative changes. In the US, we're talking about 48 or 49 states which have their own sales taxes and different rules and regulations around that. So all of our clients do need assistance with that. So why use technology to, well, essentially to smoothen it out and improve their margins. So online retailers also need inventory management. So inventory management systems like Deer, Unleashed, 7 can assist with monitoring stock, slow moving stock, reorder quantities. They can manage popular and dead product lines, so you can essentially decide which products to restock and which products to get rid of or discontinue. Some of our online retailers do have issues with cash flow forecasting, so we recommend systems like Float Cashflow, which can assist you with planning and funding gaps. If you need more than that, if you want to bring in non-financial data, let's say you're reporting to outside investors, what you would do, you'd connect it to Data or SIF reports to bring in your live data from your Xero and your Shopify or Amazon, and link it with something like Power BI to bring in non-financial data and report it to your stakeholders. So many online retailers also buy stock from international suppliers. We find that, well, they find their banks are pretty expensive when making those transfers of funds to international banks. So we suggest using someone like World First, which also connects with Xero, and they're usually cheaper than your run-of-the-mill banks. Next, we have innovations for the hospitality and normal bricks and mortar retailers. So here, we're talking about pubs, restaurants, retail shops, gyms, spas, etc. Let's take, for example, a restaurant. A typical restaurant will have a booking system. Now, if you have Xero, you can connect people like Square, Lightspeed to your Xero. Then you would have the POS or point of sale system like iZettle to take your payments. For taxes, you can connect Xero to Dext. Dext will essentially pick up data from your purchase invoices and put it straight into Xero. And these days, Dext also has machine learning, so it learns as you go along, and it remembers what you posted last time to a specific supplier. You can also add rules to ensure that it carries out those transactions in the future as well. For a restaurant, you probably need an inventory management system because you're dealing with perishable goods. So again, we're talking about the likes of Deer or Unleashed or Sin 7. Cash flow management. So more recently, a lot of our restaurants and bars and clubs have needed a lot of cash flow and scenario planning, so we've recommended that for their cash forecast for funding. Some of our larger restaurant groups do need to report KPIs. So again, talking about management information here, so they can use something like data DIR or SIF reports to do that. And also with restaurants, you'll need an awful lot of rota management or payroll and HR. So we would recommend something like Citrus, Deputy, Harvest, or Plan Day. What do these systems do? Essentially, you can create your rotas on these systems. They all have mobile apps, so you can communicate your rotas to your staff. Your staff can also log in with their smartphones and essentially take out the whole punching in, punching out process, so they can do their timesheets from their smartphones. And these days, smartphones will know where you are, so you can't just log in from home, making out that you're in work. Also, all of that data is pushed through to the payroll system, which is also connected to Xero. So, innovations for manufacturers and wholesalers. So here we're talking about engineering and construction firms, essentially. They would have some sort of CRM system, so they would communicate with their clients, any sales orders, quotes, etc. So here we would advise on something like HubSpot or Insightly. Essentially, what we're talking about here is a client calls up, they want a quote or place an order. That order now creates a purchase order to the suppliers. The suppliers come back and give them their POs or send through a purchase invoice. Purchase invoice flows through to either Dex or Xero. They'll also need an inventory management system, something like DIR Unleashed. Again, you can see there's some repetition between the industries. However, inventory management is more important to a manufacturer because they have bill of materials where they have lots of widgets that build up to a product, and those clients do need to manage those widgets and effectively to ensure that their margins are secure. As I mentioned, they'll need a purchase order system. So here we would recommend someone like Approval Max. So Approval Max can have numerous approval steps. So if you have a requester, then the requester's PO flows through to their manager. If it's over a certain amount, it can flow through to a senior manager, and if it's over another amount, say 100k, it'll probably flow through to the CEO or senior directors. With engineering and construction, you'll probably need some sort of expense management system for your staff to essentially take photos of their expenses and submit them via an app. So here we would advise on Expensify, Pleo, or Dext, essentially. So it gets rid of the whole paper submissions. Reporting, again, data DIR or SIF reports. HR, we've got Citrus HR again, Deputy, Harvest, Plan Day, or BrightPay. Now, one additional feature we would ask our clients to look at is debtor management or invoice financing. So here, a lot of our clients in engineering and construction do have problems with their debts. People who owe them money, essentially their clients. So systems like Haida, Satago, or Iwaka can assist. Again, they connect with Zero. They can usually get you a quote within an hour of downloading your sales invoices. And next, we move on to international payments. Again, we would recommend something like World First. Now, my favourite, we're moving on to professional services. You'll notice that this is a repetition of some of the other systems. So here we're talking the likes of insurance, recruitment, media, and advertising. So they would all need a CRM system. They would need expense management, need cash flow management. They'll probably want to report some KPIs. They'll all have HR and payroll systems. They need, or some of them will need, data management and international payments. So again, with CRM, it's HubSpot. We're obviously talking about Expensify or Pleo for the expense management, Float again for cash flow management, Datadeer for KPIs, BrightPay, Harvest or Deputy for HR. Data management will be Haida or Satago, and international payments will be World First. So, what apps do we work with? I mentioned a lot of applications that we work with previously, but here is an example. We've probably got 50 here, but there's actually 1,000 in fact that connect directly to Zero. Many of them are quite repetitive, as you saw earlier. Due to the number of apps that are out there, you need an experienced advisor to assist you to navigate through the maze of apps. Some duplicate, as I mentioned, and you need an experienced hand to lead you through it all. And we can also offer discounts that we receive, and we pass them on to our clients for some of these apps. So our recent work, here we have a reseller. So essentially they buy a product and sell it on for a margin. Let me just see if I can put on the annotation. Okay. So here we have a customer. They call up the sales team and ask for a quote for a few products. The sales team here then get quotes from their suppliers, add a margin, and then quote the customer. That whole process is very manual. I think the client is still using, or was using, paper POs and Excel spreadsheets to work out their margins, and they had a database sitting in Excel. So all of this was taking them an awful lot of time. And before the sales order is created, all of the orders had to go through managers and senior stakeholders before they communicated to the end client. Over here we have HR. That again was a manual process. The HR people would have spreadsheets. Every month they would run reports and do any changes on those spreadsheets, and then communicate that to the payroll system. So double keying things, essentially. The pay slips were paper based, and then at the end of the month, reports were sent to finance to enter into the finance system. Over here, employees were using paper submission for expenses. They usually had to go to their managers. The managers would sign off and then send to finance for inputting into the system. So you can see here there's an awful lot of manual processes going on. And suppliers, we've all been there. Suppliers sometimes send their invoices to sales team, to managers and other stakeholders, to employees, and to finance team. Where they should be going is to the actual finance team. So, in summary, there was a lot of manual processes. Sales orders being created on Excel databases. Some reports were being built in Excel and Word. Reports were rerun for finance, so again duplicating work. There was also slow payments due to slow invoicing from finance. So then we had multiple paper POs that were created for suppliers, so no controls on margins. We found purchase invoices were sent to the wrong people, essentially. Payroll obviously was quite slow, and then we had expenses using paper submissions. Month-end reporting, after all of that, was taken to 2 to 3 weeks after the month end. So then we came on. And you can see there's not much change in the map itself, but what we've done is introduced Approval Max for POs, Dext for purchases, BrightPay for payroll, and HubSpot for the CRM, and DataDeer for reporting. So if we start with sales first, the CRM has all the margins set within it. So when a sales order comes in, HubSpot knows what the margin should be. The sales orders are created only when the supplier quotes come in and they meet the margin levels that the stakeholders have set. Once the quotes have come in, only then will the customer receive a quote for their service or product. Once that's been agreed, the invoice or data for the invoice flows through to Xero, and Xero then sends the sales invoice out to the customer. Over here, if we go back to the supplier, because they have the links to the system, to the overall system, they have to send their purchase invoices via email to Dext. Whilst the purchase invoices are sitting in Dext, the approval system will send that data to the requester for approval. Then once they approve via email, obviously it's just a link. All they have to do is tick it. That flows back to Approval Max, which flows back to Dext, which tells Dext to send that invoice to Xero. Over here, we have the employee expenses. So employees can use the Dext app for their personal expenses. So it's sitting on their smartphone. As they go about their daily business, they can just take a snap of their receipts. It sits there until they submit it. Once they've submitted it, it goes through to Dext, where their managers can review and approve it. Once it's been approved, that data is sent to Xero. And then down here we've got the HR system or payroll system, and the employees have the portal. They can log in and manage their own files. Payroll or HR or whoever can run the month-end payroll at a click of a button, and once that's put through, the payroll data is sent to Xero. So as you can see, we've automated almost every process in the previous previous architecture. Why? Because it improves our month-end reporting. So whereas earlier it was 2 to 3 weeks, we can now report within 1 week of the month end. Other systems that we've advised on. So in recent years, we've advised on with numerous software developers and clients on development of their integrations, like integrating their websites to Xero, a client's bespoke CRM integration with Xero, a CRM and stock management system with Xero. We've advised app developers for their stock management, fintech, and health tech. So how can we help? Well, we can review and evaluate your status quo, and then we can recommend apps and software to mitigate risk and maximize more success of your business. We can review and evaluate your current setup, make recommendations. You can agree to those implementation plans to suit your business. We can handle full project from start to finish or give you support where needed. We can lead you through the process or journey. Our list of services is broken down as review, evaluate, recommend. You test our recommendations. We set up your systems and configure test the system again, make sure it meets your needs. We can migrate data, we do the snagging, we can provide training and the ongoing support. We can also offer Shopify and Amazon store setups these days. And I now thank you for attending our webinar. Do get in touch for more detail on any aspect or projects you may wish to discuss further. I now open the floor to questions.
Thank you very much, Raz. That was really informative and helpful. Thank you. A couple of questions have come in. One relating to the number of apps on the marketplace, and I think the question here really is about, that there are thousands of apps, and some come and go very quickly. How do you decide and sort of check out the robustness of an app and its stability from the company that's being provided in order to kind of bring it into your portfolio for recommended to clients?
Sure, that's a great question. So, like I said, there's over 1,000 apps, many of which do similar sort of things. So my job is to actually test them and make sure they're robust. Are they usable? Are they user friendly? Do they have the correct support levels? Will they be here next year? Essentially, what kind of funding do they have? Whatever, because we have links with other firms, and I am in touch with an awful lot of other accountants or cloud accountants. We all go around in the same circles, so we know essentially what is hot and what is not.
Okay, understand. And the other question I got is around API. If you're looking at apps, should you always, when they claim they've got API integration with another product, should you always check with the product they claim to have that integration with, that they feel the same way?
Absolutely, absolutely. So everyone says, well, a lot of people do say they connect with Xero, they connect with this, they connect with that, or when it comes down to it, or when I come along and test it, there is no connection. So essentially, you do need to do your homework. Just because the app developer says they connect with Xero, you should check with Xero themselves. And most apps actually have free trial periods, so I would suggest connecting it to your Xero to see if they actually connect or not. And the connection is great, but what is actually connected, or how is it communicating? What data is it sending? So that's another issue.
Another issue, yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, listen, Raz, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. As Raz has kindly highlighted on his last slide, Grumber do offer free reviews of your system architecture. So if you want to take advantage of that, drop Raz an email or give us a call or contact us through the website. Thanks very much for attending, and I look forward to our next one.